when you get to the point where you have a very well-defined brand, you know who your ideal client persona is, you know what your content gaps are, you then want to start being more strategic with how you create content and put it out there. So, one important distinction to make is the difference between a content bucket and a content frame. So, content buckets are actually topics that you might talk about. So, for example, for Prospology, we talk a lot about freedom, entrepreneurship, branding, medical writing, client relationship management, that kind of stuff. And I would say those are kind of our primary topics. So those are content buckets. So you'll want to have a handful of those, like maybe 4 or 5 of them that you use on a regular basis to create content for your brand. And once you have those, you want to think about the content frames. So those are actually types of posts. So you might have a text post. It could be like a story or something that you've learned or something you want to share in text format. Obviously, there's visuals as well. Like some platforms will support GIFs or animations or what have you, but images always work. You have quotes, you have video clips, you have testimonials, graphics, like anything that you want to share. So then you can take one content bucket, let's say freedom, and then you can come up with at least 5 different ways of talking about that. And you can get even more granular with it. So right now I'm traveling a lot. I might write something about how great it is to have the freedom to be able to travel whenever I want. I don't have to answer to anyone else's schedules. I can decide what I want and when I want it. I actually just had a call yesterday with one of my contacts who said, "Oh, my wife wants to go to Hawaii, so I'm just going to go find a medical conference in Hawaii and pitch a topic to them and then just get a speaking engagement over there." And he managed to get like a 4-day trip out of it. And they paid for his accommodation and his wife got to go. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I do that kind of thing as well. Like, if I want to go somewhere, I'll just find a reason to bring my business over there and do some networking or what have you. And the more I get into speaking, the more I do that kind of thing. So I might write a text post about that conversation and how awesome that is. And then I might also have an image of me and John, who I was talking about, and like this conversation that we had. And then I might have a quote that relates to that, and then just add a few comments. So you get what I mean. So one idea can end up becoming like a whole bunch of other ideas. And so you want to have a variation in the topics and the types of posts so that your audience stays interested and engaged. But you want to stay specific to those 4 or 5 content buckets so that you're not diluting your brand. So the idea is to find a balance between the two. Use the frames to create variety, but keep those buckets pretty succinct so that your brand is more recognizable. So as I mentioned, you can kind of mix and match the buckets and the frames to make interesting combinations, to add more diversity. It means that you'll never run out of ideas, but it also means that your brand is going to be very consistent. And so one thing that you can do is you can kind of make a table and you can have your buckets on one side and then your frames on the other, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps. So whenever you've done some posts, you can be like, how can I repurpose this? How can I make this go further or say this in a different way? And if you do that, you can very easily map out a content strategy or a calendar for the whole month and then schedule them ahead of time. So you can use scheduling tools. You can use things like Airtable to organize your posts and get things ready and figure out which order you want to put things in, because you may write all of them at the same time in a certain topic, but you're not going to post them back to back. So you'll write them and then you'll kind of space them out and have some other stuff in between. And that way it doesn't seem like it's being repetitive.